there's this one guy that comments on every YouTube video. We've got like a super fan out there, and us just being like, he's like a fan of the pod, I guess, and us just being like, you know, all about the people. This is a podcast by the people, for the people. We decided to have him on. So hello, Sean Frank. Also the best moderator in the world from Big Daddy Podcast Operators. How you doing, Sean?
Dude, I just wanted to come visit my children. I think I get visitation rights, so I came over here to spend some time with the operators. Every week we'll kick one of you guys off, and I'll jump right in. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 23 of the Marketing Operators Podcast. Yep, I got demoted. I'm down here in the B leagues, but we got a great episode where I'm going to talk for like 45 minutes in a row. Cody and Connor are going to ask a couple questions, and it'll be me talking some more. So thank you. Motion, House, Rich Panel, Prescient AI, all of these awesome sponsors that I get no money from because this is not my podcast. So take it away, guys.
At Ridge, we are loyal users of motionapp.com. And why is that? It's because creative is the new ad targeting. 4 or 5, 6 years ago, you'd show up to Meta, you'd tell them exactly who you wanted to target, and that is no longer the case. If you want to be reaching new audiences, you need to be doing that through creative and a strategic approach to it. So what we talk about on our team all the time is creative diversity. What are the motivators, the reasons to believe, the new content pillars that we're using to reach new audiences? And all of that gets cataloged within Motion so that we can both measure what's working within each of those categories, as well as how do we measure against one another. With all the talk of creative strategy, Motion has become an industry leader in content that my team learns from and your team can learn from too. So you can go to motionapp.com and check out their webinars, subscribe to their newsletter. We've done exclusive Marketing Operators podcasts with their audience to be up to date on cutting edge creative strategy techniques. So if you're ready to join the best D2C and e-commerce brands using Motion to win at Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, go to motionapp.com, tell them the Marketing Operator sent you, and get 50% off your first month.
Dude, I'm the only person who comments, except for the comment on last week's episode where someone was just talking. They're like, Cody, stop speaking over everybody. And I thought that was very funny.
I don't think they named me. I saw your screenshot. Don't do me like that. I do read your comments, everyone, and they crack me up. I'm like, I never know if it's going to be a really nice comment or trolling us.
Yeah, we also have a newsletter, shout out Operators Newsletter, and I respond to everyone with either something really nice or really mean. So Aaron gets the Sean roulette as well.
You really do. You're really bought in around social engagement. You understand the power of that. You're commenting on the newsletters. You're commenting on our videos. For those that don't know, Sean's wife is a TikToker. He sends me every single one and her videos. As soon as they go up, sends them through. He's like engagement baiting everything.
That's right. And also, if you check me and Connor's DMs, I send him like 15 very funny memes. Guys never responded. Yep. It's just nonstop fire. So I'll post some of those. Maybe we'll get a collage going of all the funny memes I posted.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
I would love to too. Do you at least hit him with a like? Like that's what my wife does. She sends me all stuff on Reels half of the time. If she's not listening, I don't look at it, but at least I'll hit it with a like just to know I received it.
No, I got to start doing that.
Dude, this is a very funny meme, but like modern relationships are just like talking to the same person on 6 apps. So like I DM Connor on Twitter, I DM him on Slack. We're in group chats together. I've been sending him letters that go unanswered. So I'm all over his ecosystem.
Do you feel like it's one way? It sounds like I'm feeling some feelings of it being a little one way.
Yeah, I am looking. Yeah, I'm starting to regret my choice as CMO. So Cody, what have you been doing? You looking for a new role?
No, there's no one better than Connor. But don't want to start some. But yeah, well, I'm thrilled you're here. This should be fun. I am nowhere near the moderator that you are on Operators Podcast. I feel like we got to plug that one. But it's an incredible podcast. I listen to it every week, so it's really good. And so I am just honored to be on the Cub podcast and have you here with us today, talking all things e-com.
This is the podcast for the people who are actually doing the work. So I think they'll just send this to their executives, send this to their CEOs and be like, see, marketing is important. And that's where we're going to get across.
All right. So that seems like a good segue. I know one thing that we want to talk about is just like what the background of a CEO in e-commerce should be. Like how important is it to be relevant or very knowledgeable about marketing, about growth? Like, what do you think about background? Does your background running the agency and working at, an agency with Connor, like, is that super helpful in what you guys do day to day?
Yeah. Okay. Well, this will be the serious, non-talking portion of the podcast. If you think about, to be successful at a tech startup, you should probably be a developer, right? Like you should understand how to code things if you want to work in SaaS. And if you want to have a warehouse or make Flexport or whatever, you should have like ops experience. You should like understand that. And there's been a couple phases of D2C or e-com or product startups or whatever. And usually those founders who raise money have absolutely no experience in anything. Like I don't know who those people were. They just have connections and they have like a good, mood board and they end up raising money, right? I think the modern e-com experience, I think the modern, successful e-com brand, your biggest line item is going to be marketing, right? Like half of our money sometimes goes to marketing. And if you don't know how to deploy that correctly, you shouldn't be a founder. You shouldn't be in this industry, right? I think the best background you could possibly have is working at an agency or like working at a high growth physical product company. At the end of the day, and Jason from HexCloud will say this all the time, that like product's the only thing that matters, right? But product lets you stand out in ads and it lets you have a good customer experience with a low return rate. But you have to get products in people's hands. And that's been proven to be the absolute most expensive thing on your balance sheet. We all know that like a good OpEx cost for people is 10%. Like you shouldn't spend more than 10% of your revenue on people costs. And we know that like fulfillment, pick and pack, everything will be like 15%, right? And where's the other 75% going? Well, it shouldn't be going to product. We should have a product that has 75% gross margin. So half of your money should go into marketing. You should know how to deploy that correctly. So I'm sure your audience relates to that as marketers, but they should probably send it to their boss and be like, you should just understand the basics of marketing and like actually how to build demand, because that's the most expensive part of our business.
What do you think somebody needs to know? Like, so there probably are CEOs or CFOs who need to know probably more about marketing than they do. They might not, ever have been hands on keyboards. Like I feel like Jason does a good job. I know he doesn't come from this world, but like he knows that he understands incrementality. He's in North Beam all the time. He might not be, in Meta accounts, but like, what do you feel like at the bare bones level, like a CEO needs to know about marketing and spend?
You should just understand how the actual funnel works, right? I mean, I think if you've made it to this point and like you're at any significant scale, you probably understand that like you just can't turn the bad ads off, right? Or like to dive into and understand like not all ads or ROASs are created equal, right? I mean, it's super common when me and Connor were starting our career, we would talk to a founder or a CEO and just be like, let's scale branded. That's a joke we've made all the time, right? That comes from somebody telling us that. They're like, well, that's an 8X. Like we should scale that more. And it's like, oh, you don't understand anything about marketing, right? So I think the modern founder probably knows a little bit, but you just, at the end of the day, you should understand that you're not in the product economy. Like you're not a product company. You're not a CPG. You're in the attention economy. Like you have to understand how buying attention works and the economics of buying attention.
I think it's easy to say like, oh yeah, we need to talk about like the line item that's on your balance sheet, the like 40% or 33% of your revenue that's going to ads. But really, I was also going to say it comes down to content, and CEOs and founders that understand content. Those two things are like deeply intertwined, and it's not necessarily about, and we talk about this all the time, right? Like cost caps. How do you set up creative campaign structures or creative testing structures within Facebook? Like all sorts of tactical stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to understand how to invest in distribution. And before investing in distribution, you need to understand how to create good content. And I do think you deeply understand both of those. And that's a massive advantage that we have at Ridge with you at the helm, as we know like where to invest and what to prioritize.
Yeah. And let's unpack that further, right? Like I'm not going to be helpful at all talking about cost caps or structures or whatever, right? But we can talk about founders who understand content that converts and founders that don't. And everyone wants to be Ramoa. Everyone wants to be like, oh, that's not our brand. We would never run that. Well, you don't deserve to be Ramoa because you're not owned by LVMH, right? Like you don't get to come in here and be like, that's off-brand creative, right? and because one, it's a pompous asshole thing to say because it's just something you don't like, right? And that is you putting your own perspective and bias into your brand. And you see that all the time with like brands that try to be way too precious. Like this is our yeses and this is our nos. I think you will go out of business if people don't buy your thing, right? And like I'm not saying you have to run like scammy, like this will fix your back pain, like supplement ads, but you have to like understand why those things work. And we sell to men, so I'll only talk about like the men's side of the business. Men only buy things if they are in like distress, like physical pain, right? Or if it helps them attract some sort of mate, or if it helps them make more money. So like we're kind of fucked trying to sell things to guys because it's like, how will your wallet make you more money? Or how will your wallet fix your physical pain? Men are just, maybe it's selfless, or maybe it's just like not bought into material world. It's just really hard to sell things to men. So we're kind of forced to play on those like tropes. We have to be a little more in your face. We have to be a little more boombastic when it comes to thumb stops and hooks and that type of stuff. But like, I mean, I could definitely see like, raising money, having a super beautiful makeup brand and being like, no, we would never do that. That's not on brand. And not on brand is the graveyard of like 2019 to 2022.
Oh man,
This kind of came up today in a Twitter exchange that I had because someone was talking about a Post-it note ad. And it was a super good point. So we don't need to go deep on this one in particular, but it was about a Post-it note ad. And they were like, yeah, this is this is the playbook for being forgettable. And I was like, okay, yeah, but this is a slippery slope because a lot of brands mistook being memorable for being a good business when in reality they were unprofitable. So I'd much rather be like, quote unquote, forgotten, but having ads that work and generating profit. And I think that kind of hits both points, and like understanding that at the leadership level, it has always been super key.
Yeah. Okay. Now we can pick on people who've already gone out of business. We'll pick on a House. Everyone loved them. Everyone's like, it's so beautiful. It's so well done. It's so curated. That company did like $5 million in revenue and then went bankrupt after raising $12 million. And no offense to that founder, but like she played the game on the field, right? The game on the field was make a beautiful brand, raise money, and maybe there's an outcome. But we only look to people like Apple or Nike, and that's survivorship bias. It's like, well, they got there and look how beautiful it is. I always bring up that like, dude, Tiffany's has almost gone bankrupt 5 times. And like Tiffany's at one point had a sale where like, it was like, they described it as a grab bag. It's like, come get whatever at the store. Right. And yeah, that was like 1927 or whatever. Like nobody fucking remembers that. But like to be memorable, you have to survive, and you have to survive for long periods of time. And I think people won't do the things necessary to survive. Right. And sometimes those things look really bad and really shitty. And sometimes you do Post-it note ads, but at least Ridge gets to be here. we got to put up growth. We got to put up profit. And, I think we'll be here another 5 years. We'll be here another 10 years. Right. And most of the things you thought are beautiful will end up looking very passé in the passage of time. So.
Totally. I think one of the perfect examples in very recent memory is Athletic Greens, right? Like they are now quintessential, like beautiful brand. If you look at their site 10 years ago or whenever they launched, it was the most like DR oriented, spammy looking site. They were like, we'll cure every pain that you have in your body with like this magic powder. And then they were able to scale, and they did all the things that they needed to grow. And then now they're able to like pull up the ladder behind them a little bit and be the beautiful brand, kind of pull some of the punches when it comes to the DR acquisition stuff, and like make that jump into, I don't know, generational brand-esque strategy, like the Nikes, like the Apples.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's that is a perfect example because different brand facing, like we're all just putting on masks. Like they put on the pretty, established brand mask now to acquire that next tier of customer, right? But the like just to break even and survive, they were an affiliate scam brand. And to tie it back to Nike, that's selling Osaka Tigers out of the back of your van. Like that was the first 7 years of quote unquote Nike, was him being like, hey, you want to buy some shoes? And
they weren't his shoes. They were white labeled shoes from China. Like they didn't even say Nike on them.
They were from Japan.
Yeah.
Dude. That's
sorry, but it was blue ribbon, right?
It was. I'm pretty sure they were Saka Tigers or something. But anyway, that's the whole point. Is that yeah, like now they get to have billboards and sponsor athletes and have the Olympics or whatever, and everybody wants that. But what they don't get is that that's like 60 years of them like almost going bankrupt multiple times, hitting their head against the wall. And I mean, if you're not willing to do that, then you don't get to be a founder. You just get to be a critic, right?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So one thing I think is interesting, because I totally agree, and growth and marketing, especially at like bootstrap DTC brands, is super important. I find it just interesting parallel. So like you guys, it seems like the founding team, I think it's what Daniel and his dad, like it seems like they're like product guys, and you guys kind of came in more on the growth side. Like it seems like Hexclad's a little bit like that, where it seems like Danny and Cole are really like product guys, and then like Jason and Connor and people came in on growth side, and then like Jones Road is the same. Like obviously Bobby's not a digital marketing person, but like she's super into product. But like I will say, as a marketer, product is the most important thing in the world. But like Sean said, you've also got to get it in people's hands. And so I just find those parallels kind of interesting, where it's like the CEOs or like the leadership is not just pure product. Like there's an existing product background that probably has some really differentiated product, but then there are people that just take advantage of that opportunity and are probably running a little bit more of the day-to-day to just like put fire on that thing.
Totally, man.
I would say, but I would also add, like, actually Daniel at Ridge and Danny at Hexclad, both good examples of thinking about distribution. So what Daniel was super early to actually was overseas manufacturing and then launching on Kickstarter. So Ridge was his third Kickstarter campaign, where he just generated, like, across the first three, I think he raised almost $500,000, like, for free. Like, it wasn't as if he was like, oh my God, I have a vision for the best wallet brand ever. I think he saw a model where he was like, hey, there's a lot of free organic eyeballs. This was the time, and he always says this, that you had to be approved on Kickstarter. So you had all these people looking to back campaigns. Now it's way more cutthroat. You're like competing. Anybody can get on there. You have to run ads. You have to grow your own awareness. 11 years ago when Ridge launched there, it was like free distribution. That's what he tapped into early. And then Danny at Hexclad was looking for a product that he could demo at Costco, because he's like, yeah, I could go around the country demoing cool products and selling it there. Both found great products, but didn't do it without thinking about distribution. I think that's what it looked like 11 years ago. And then I think Daniel, and I'm sure Danny's similar, are like, have always been able to embrace the need for acquisition. And that comes with like shaping the company in a completely different way.
Yeah, so I know that I know Daniel's story obviously intimately, and he'll be the first to tell you, he's like, bro, I'm not passionate about wallets. He's like, I thought I could make a better one, but I also had a sunglass brand and a watch brand and all these things going on, and that's the one that hit, right? Like that's the one that there ended up being a lot of legs behind. And I think Danny from Hexclad, he wanted to find a product he could sell in Costco's and flea markets or whatever, so that he could continue his dream of and being an actor. I'm pretty sure he's had like multiple bookings on TV shows, right? Yeah. And so he's like, he was just thinking like, yo, I need something to fucking do in between all these awesome acting gigs I'm getting, right? And now it's this multiple huge business, right? And those people I think they have a good insight into what works in a market and what makes a great product, but they're not like overly complicated about it, right? You give Daniel any product and he's taking it apart, being like, oh, this is fucking cool. For like in his free time, he launched a electric bike company, right? He's just like, it's like what he does, right? He's just like, it's not like he's Jimmy Iovine fucking making, or whatever, the Apple iPhone guy making like the most perfect, beautiful wallet ever. He's just like, that's a good one. I'm gonna make a knife now. And he's like, okay, I made a knife. I'm gonna make a fucking skateboard now, right? I think he's way more, he's much more of a mercenary. I bet Danny's the same way.
Yeah, it makes sense. So one of the buzzwords this year is incrementality. Last year was all about attribution. This year is all about incrementality. And I think that's a great thing, because we are all trying to grow our businesses profitably. And we want to make sure that the spend that we are putting out into market is actually is working for us. So I know that we are all house customers, and you guys have sought out house this year. What led you guys to do that? We'll start with Ridge.
For us, it's all about new channels. We're in the business of reaching net new male audiences. So when we're launching across Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, Live Intent, etc., we use House to measure the total impact of those new channel experiments.
That's awesome. How about Hexclad? What are you guys looking at?
Definitely the new channels as we roll those out, but because we already had such a diversified marketing mix in terms of channels and we were already spending at pretty high levels prior to onboarding House, the first batch of testing is just for us to find those optimal spend levels with our existing marketing stack and then comparing those to one another to kind of see within our existing marketing stack, where should we bring spend down, where should we bring spend up, and really using that incremental ROAS, that incremental CAC number to inform how we move those budgets up and down.
I love that. Yeah. And for us, the same, we've definitely tested new channels, but we've also calibrated spend on existing channels. We've saved 6 figures a month just by not running brand search because we've ran multiple tests and it's not incremental. So I know for all of us, it's had a huge impact and we love it and we couldn't live without it at this point. And so if you want to be like us and want to add scientific rigor to your marketing stack, I recommend you go to house.io/operators. That's HAUS.io/operators to get a demo today. I'm curious, Sean, like with your marketing background, obviously Connor being CMO and super strong, what's your day-to-day like as CEO? I'm super curious, like how much of your time do you spend getting involved in marketing, product, finance, strategy? Yeah. What's your week look like?
Yeah, man. So I typically sleep till about noon, and I drink a couple beers. No, I mean,
Just passive income lifestyle.
yeah. No, look, I have a really awesome leadership team, right? I mean, Connor runs the entire ship from creative to performance to retention, right? He has directors and leaders on his team that he relies on, but like the only time I'm giving insight is if I see something obviously broken or he asked for my opinion, right? And then I have, COO Andres, who's leading, everything ops on that side of the business. And then we have, Daniel leading the product side of the business. So, a good CEO is kind of like the Wizard of Oz. I'm always kind of behind the curtain, pulling some strings or whatever. No, but in all reality, what does my day look like? I set the strategy of the business. So I make it super clear what we need to do over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. And then I know enough about every single department where I can know if things are moving towards that goal or away from that goal, right? Connor never has to think about what's in the bank account or finances or budgets for marketing, right? He's just like, I'm executing on what I want. And these things are within my realm and I'm just going to have complete control over them. And I facilitate those things happening by working with my CFO and whoever else, right? And, Daniel has a list of products he wants to make. I work with him to like figure out where they need to launch inside of the year, thinking about historical performance, make sure we have enough inventory to buy them and we have the capacity to actually get them in and get them to the markets. So yeah, it's really just strategy, and it's just repeating the strategy as often as possible. I make the joke that like what a CEO's job is just saying the same fucking 3 lines over and over again. And Connor can repeat them. We're making more products for more people, and we're selling them more places. That is the entire strategy for this year and next year. And then getting on stand up every single day because we have it every day at 9 a.m. and just explaining that over and over again to everybody. So that's really the day to day. Connor, is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I really like the fireman analogy. Maybe you could. I think this is really accurate.
Yeah. So there's a thing called the Macari method, which is a way to run a startup. It's Matt Macari. He's like an awesome CEO coach. He was Sam Altman's coach. He was all these people's coach. And he has a free framework he puts on the internet, and we could link it in the show notes. It is just a Google Doc with a bunch of Google links in there. And he's like, "Yep, this is how you should run your company." And he has good advice for a CEO, and that is, you're basically a fireman. Like, you're sitting around waiting for an urgent thing. So you have a lot of time where you do nothing. You have to have a free calendar where you're thinking of like, what's the next strategy? You're thinking of the next, product development or your partnership. You have to have that free time to like think and structure that. But when something breaks, you're immediately jumping in and trying to solve that problem, right? When a car blows up or when a fucking building's on fire, you're the first person to run in and try to save what you can. And we're going through that right now with our probably every day there's three different fires. We're launching a knife, and we found out that like some percentage of the knives are defective and will open up in your pocket. And that's very, very bad when you're trying to sell somebody a knife, right? Somebody could actually get injured. So like that's a fire we're putting out right now. Another fire is our our wholesale 3PL, our B2B 3PL is they just sold without telling us and moved without telling us in 3 days. They're like, yeah, we have new owners. We actually moved. So reroute all your shipments. That sucks. So that's a very shitty thing to do for a 3PL. And we're dealing with that right now. So sometimes I'm doing absolutely nothing, just being zen, thinking about, where we're going to take this business, thinking my next tweet, my next meme. And then sometimes I'm jumping on an airplane to go fucking try to figure out this 3PL thing.
You'll also see like Sean, if you follow Sean on Twitter at Sean Ecom, you'll every once in a while see him say something like, I'm looking for X. And it's like, I'm looking for a production company in New York that needs to create a video for X amount of dollars. Or recently it was about, I think, international growth marketing options. That's often a step in putting out fires. So you can see like the external kind of efforts there where it's like, oh yeah, we need help sourcing agencies for videos or for performance marketing or whatever else. Sometimes just like, hey, let's cast a really wide net and then we'll like slowly kind of wean it down from there. So that's another example that people might see at least a portion of it happen publicly.
Dude, a big part of my value is that I can reach 10,000 people in a tweet or whatever, right? Like this very small thing. It's that's how we got Marquez in the business. That's how we got, a bunch of great agency partners and, just being able to be like, hey, I have this problem. Please help me solve it. And then people are like, oh yeah, I'll gladly solve it. I'm like, oh, yep. That's a big part of my value.
We're shadow managed by the Twitter timeline, basically.
Yeah. I'm trying to get big on LinkedIn too. I'll do the same thing over there.
Next tweet's going to be, does anybody know how to not have knives open in your pocket?
Totally.
They say like, if you're at like a restaurant or something and there's like a sign on the wall, like, please do this or wash your hands. It's like, there's some story behind it. There's like a similar story behind every one of Sean's tweets, probably.
Oh yeah, dude. I at least try to give my company warning. I think the worst thing is when like a company finds something out like strategy wise or layoff wise from like the public CEO's Twitter. There's a lot of horror stories about that. So at least I'll hit up stand up chat first. I'll post it in our Slack group before I send it out into the world.
Oh, dude, I've done that. I've made that mistake a few times. It's always well meaning, but you just got to be more mindful about how it comes off or what you're saying and have you communicated it internally first.
Totally.
Definitely. All right. And how about when it comes to like interacting with marketing? So let's say that's your background, but obviously Connor's running the show on marketing. Like, how close do you get? Like, I've seen some CEOs, CFOs are like, hey, here's how much you're spending on YouTube. Here's how much you're spending on Google. And I think a lot of those are misguided because they're looking at last click. Or are you just like, hey, here's our MER target. You can spend as much as you want, whatever channel you want, as long as you're within that.
Well, the way it historically worked is like, I'll take a rough stab at budget, understanding that if you want revenue to increase, you typically have to have MER decrease. Like those things typically move hand in hand. I never just be like, yeah, I want to do $300 million this year and I want MER to go up. Like that's I'm grounded in reality. That's very hard to do it unless you're selling pans apparently. So shout out Hexclad. And that'll happen at the beginning of the year. And then, we'll touch base every quarter, every month. And, every month I put together like a full company analysis where like, I'll be like, hey, here's everything we sold. Here's revenue. Here's costs. Here's what the products and the marketing mix and what worked and what didn't. So I still pull those by hand. We just hired a VP of finance who's going to do more strategic finance planning and like take over and actually give us like mathematically formatted projections. A lot of mine are just like, feelings. And so we'll get a little more, prescriptive there. But Connor has free reign to do whatever it takes to get close to those projections. And then if we have like 5 or 7 bad days, I'll check in and be like, bro, what's going on? But understanding that I talk to Connor literally an hour every single day on the phone. So he's typically telling me, he's like, oh man, these fucking campaigns, this thing's going on. But I'm never being like, oh, have you thought about spending more money on remarketing? I've never told him that.
You haven't been like, hey, have you tried these cost caps? I keep seeing people talk about them online.
I'll send him the occasional tweet being like, is this guy full of shit? And then Connor will be like,
yeah, that Cody guy, he's totally full of shit.
We had the same joke. I think Connor does a good job keeping me into the business. And I mean, every single day I'm looking at EBITDA, I'm looking at daily spend, I'm looking at revenue, I'm looking at versus our projections. And the whole company, we actually have a very transparent culture. I mean, today we record this on a Tuesday. Connor leads a call every Tuesday with everyone in the business where we go over what were the last 7 days sales, what are those versus plan, what are those versus LY, what did we sell, why are things working or why are things not. So I think even the lowest level individual contributor, the newest person in our business, is empowered to like at least understand what's going on. So I think Connor does a good job instilling that across the entire business, and I'm there learning along with everybody else.
Yeah, totally. That's like just in terms of like top level performance, whether it's by category or by market or whatever else, we just have pretty good processes internally. So we have like a real-ish time sense of that, like day to day. So there's not a lot of like, there's really never a time where I'm talking to Sean for the first time in like 4 days, 5 days or something. Or I feel at some organizations, it could be like 2-3 weeks where you finally show up and you're like, things are really bad. Like, and you explain it to them. We're like really on top of that and reacting really quickly. And a lot of that doesn't even happen, like I said, via conversation. It is like an internal form of reporting that happens weekly, like it did today, but also on a day-to-day basis that we're constantly checking in on.
Look, I know your audience wants actionable shit, right? So I talk to a bunch of brands. Like in a given week, I might communicate with 20 brands and I'll be like, hey, how are your last 7 days? How are things going? What does MER look like? And if things are bad for us and things are bad for other people, like we had a bad Q2. So what we decided was, okay, we're just gonna be way more promo oriented, right? We're gonna have a longer Prime Day. We're gonna have sales going in and sales going out, and we're gonna have an expanded warehouse section, right? Leading into and throughout sweeps. And now things are crushing it. And I think we're doing way better than, other people. I think our comps are high growth, meta dependent, men's dominated brands. So I would put us in with, think about anybody selling, men's skincare to men's grooming to men's t-shirts. If they spend a fuck ton of money on Meta and they're selling things to dudes, like they're probably in our cohort. And I think we're beating our cohort right now because we were early on being promo oriented with more products than just our core to sell and having, the benefit of like the best sweepstakes we've ever done, right? Like being way more on top of it. So all I'm trying to say is, because of that very tight feedback loop from, us being transparent, us talking all the time, we've been able to pivot the business faster than somebody who will wait till, they're pulling their quarterly reports and then being like, yeah, things are bad. I don't know. Right. I think we can get ahead of it.
Yeah. And that's a good example of like where our responsibilities kind of split there, or at least to some degree, was coming out of Q2. We want to improve performance. Obviously we're going to get better at content. So I hit that home with my team heavy. We were like quadrupling down on how do we very quickly get more compelling content together. We could be more offer oriented in funnels. Like I'll do that autonomously with some frequency. And then channel expansion. So just like, how are we getting better at media buying across channels, better content, some level of offer. And then Sean can come in and be like, no, actually it should be more drastic than that. We should expand Prime Day, or internationally, we're going to expand it a little bit further or whatever else. And that's a perfect, we can very quickly orient the whole business around, hey, we need to get better at digital acquisition, versus me feeling like I've got to tiptoe around like not being too promotional, or where do we draw the line versus what we did last year and things like that.
So if you're an e-commerce brand and you have .com and distribution channels, Prescient AI's tool is a game changer. They have an industry-first ability to measure proprietary halo effects that can tell you down to the campaign level the impact of all of your ad spend across both your e-commerce store sales and your Amazon store sales. We use MTA tools at Hexclad and we love them. However, MTA tools are not going to tell you the return on ad spend considering your Amazon store. So in reality, you might dial back or turn off a campaign that looks like it's underperforming per your MTA, but if you're including your .com and Amazon sales in your attribution, that actually might be a higher performing. So we've actually used Prescient at Hexclad to confidently scale our CTV and meta channels. And we're also able to validate those top of funnel channels' impact on Amazon by calibrating the model results with a proven incrementality test that we ran through house. So not only is it giving us a great model on its own, but it's also integrating with these other tools. When you think of omni-channel measurement, think of Prescient AI. So we use Prescient at Hexclad. It's used by other top brands like Good American, Symbiotica, Timbuktu, Nude, and dozens more. Prescient AI, helping brands scale spend confidently with AI-powered marketing mix models. If you want to check out Prescient AI's marketing mix modeling tool, go to prescientai.com/operators. That's PRESCIENTAI.com/operators. ENTAI.com/operators.
Tell me more about this VP finance. So part of the reason I like doing this podcast is because you guys are ahead of we are, and so I just love learning and kind of selfishly getting to ask some questions I wouldn't get to otherwise. But that's something we're going to start hiring for. Like our most senior person is a director right now, and I kind of like own overall forecasting P&L. But tell me about this hire. Like, what did you have before? Why do you hire them? And what's on their job description?
I'm going to get to that. But first, let me say that, I think the number one thing a CEO does is bring new tools into the business. I've described it as bringing toys into the sandbox. Connor is amazing at getting the most out of whatever toys are in the sandbox. But what I can do is be like, hey, here's rings, or hey, here's travel, or hey, here's this new collab, or hey, here's Marquez, or hey, here's we're doing sweeps or whatever else. These are all things that I independently bring to the business because I can make those decisions and nobody can tell me no or to call me an idiot or say I'm wasting money, right? We have a board. They could fire me, right? But I can operate, with the freedom, I'm able to kind of run around and find whatever cool new rocks to bring into the playground and show them off to all my friends. Now, going back to the VP of finance, to Connor's chagrin, we definitely have title inflation. You're saying, hey, the biggest person we have is a director. Dude, we had VPs when we were 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah. The common saying in startups is titles are cheap until they're not. And that was just something we did. It's like, okay, you're going to be in charge of CX, so you're the director of CX, right? When really that person should have been a manager, right? Maybe even a senior associate. That was
we have that too. We've got a lot of that too.
Yeah. So we had just had a ton of title inflation. Now we have Ariston, who just joined. Ariston is deserving of a VP title. CFO at a 8-figure ecom brand. Joins us, investment banking background, valued us being a remote workplace, could very much be the CFO at, any strong 8-figure brand. So he comes in, and I hate finance as a function in my business. I think it is expensive and annoying and slow. And look, we have people who work really hard on it. Shout out Josh, shout out Avi, shout out all these people. But I've been hypercritical of finance for so long because I'm like, it's just a cost center. Every dollar I pay for finance is a dollar I don't get to spend on Facebook ads. And what do you think drives results in our business, right? I think long-term, you get enterprise value from a very strong finance department, but short-term, you make your money off of Facebook ads. So Ariston has been brought in to buck the trend of me draining resources out of finance it and actually try to build that up. We have to pass audits. We have to just sophisticate our projections and our banking relationships and all this type of stuff. And for a company our size, we had a controller, 2 CPAs and a CFO. And then we had some accounts payable, accounts receivable people. Adding this VP of finance just lets us build the next generation, the next iteration of what we're trying to do. Did I answer your question, Cody?
Yeah. And so obviously you got most brands, you got your accounting function, you've got your AP stuff and your controller. Is this kind of trying to get into a little bit more of a strategic finance, FP&A function to try to drive growth or find opportunity for growth or profitability?
I'm sure it'll lead to enhanced profitability. Just somebody watching it. I don't know how it will lead to growth, but he'll better think about the growth targets we want to hit, right? And better think through the margin profile needed, supplier relationships needed, and just take over cash flow planning and projections from me. Because right now I spend Sundays updating my little cash flow chart and being like, hey, where's all the money? Going into all the bank accounts, making sure I understand where accounts receivable is. And then, like I said, me and Connor would plan out what next year would be. And we have a chart where it's well, how many rings do you think we can sell next June? And we'd be like, we could probably sell more than last June. That's the way we did it in the past. So I think somebody just taking a more scientific approach to it could actually give us better projections, better insights. Because right now we set projections, and if we miss them, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just revise those ones down. And oh, cool, dude, we hit them if I revise them down. Well, we'll have somebody more in charge of it.
Makes sense. I got it. Yeah. No, I think so. I think we almost hired a VP of finance last year, decided to kind of Band-Aid it in true startup fashion. I took on a bunch. I took on overall forecasting and P&L. Director kind of stepped up a little bit, and then just so we hired a chief of staff to help coordinate. But I think we kind of like band-aid, and I think our board was like, I don't necessarily know what, like we were about to recruit for a CFO and worked with a recruiter, and they're like, you guys don't have any debt, you don't have any investors, like you're not a public company, like a CFO, you're going to pay him a ton and there's not going to be enough to do. At that stage, we were like just hitting, 9 figures. And then we were about to do VP of finance as well. And like, we're bringing people in, they wanted, more than I made plus equity. And I'm like, I'd have to teach you the forecasting anyways. Like, it's not like they have experience doing it. So I'm like, I don't necessarily want to pay somebody that if I don't know. So we've been able to get by, but maybe it's just like the marketing background in me going from like getting ROAS daily to then like having to wait like 45 days to close your books. Like I want to be able to do that stuff a lot faster and re-budget faster and hopefully do some FP&A where you can find, uncover these opportunities for growth that you don't know about.
Dude, yeah, you're hitting on my problem with finance as a category. It's that like they'll keep the books open for 5 days over like a $3,000 charge. And I'm like, we cannot drive this business looking in the rearview mirror. We have to be looking at the future. We have to be looking at today's results, tomorrow's results, and like next week. And so I think keeping those totally separate. It's like, look, marketing's making the marketing's decisions, and we don't actually want oversight from the finance department. What we want finance to do is be there if there's any like problems or issues, or like get us ready for a transaction. And Cody, I know this is not one of the talking points, but this is me giving you some advice as someone who has wasted a lot of time, money, and energy in the e-com world for the past 10 years. You should hire more people. Like, you are too scrappy. You were scrappy to the point of hurting your business, and Ridge has been there. I mean, Connor's heard me fucking complain about this, where we will not hire people because Connor's like, oh, I can do it. And then Connor's like, he's just looking like a zombie, like working 14 hours a day, like cough. Like, dude, there was 2 years where Connor was sick every week. Just coughing, sniffling, be like, nah, dude, I got this.
How many like years into the business was that? When was that?
Last year.
Well, you look good now.
No, I mean, in terms of our hiring, I think we really staffed up 2022 is when we like really started more aggressively hiring, at least across the marketing department. From a senior leadership perspective, it's really only been the last, like, I guess, a year and a half.
Bro, Connor, we can hear your dog. All the listeners can just hear Connor's dog panting.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
No, it's
Sean, do you
cute.
have a target like payroll as a percent of revenue you try to be at?
Yeah, look, you should end the year at 10%, right? Like, I think that is a good target. But here's something you should think about with your business. You're growing 50%, and December is going to cover a lot of your problems, right? This December, November, like these are going to be huge months and huge boom to your revenue. And I would ignore all warehouse staff. I would ignore all retail staff, and I would just focus on like I would pay right now and build your payroll to be 10% of next year's revenue, right? Build yourself into it and just tolerate it, man. I would just tolerate $200K for a VP of finance, $200K for, a director of retention, 200, like you spend $1 million, right? I would put $1 million into additional people to make your life a little bit better. And then you can move into the fireman role that I'm talking about, right? Like you can actually start thinking, and you could bring new tools into your business that could actually grow net new revenue. So,
yeah. So it's funny. I don't know if you saw, but I was, Taylor Holiday was giving me some unsolicited feedback on Twitter about this, but it was in the opposite direction because it's just so hard to tell from Twitter. He was like, no, I think you're hiring like too aggressively because we just hired a bunch of director level roles. We were at 7.7% last year, last calendar year of, payroll percent of revenue, forecasted to be just shy of 10 this year. So definitely like purposely taking that ramp up. I just decided it's not sustainable. Like last year at this point, like I think I was still buying Facebook ads. I was writing briefs, but I was also kind of going into like more of a CEO role. So I was like way too much. So recently, last few months, hired director of growth, first time having that, director of e-com, first time having that, director of retention, first time having that, senior manager of data. So like we've done quite a bit of hiring. And same thing. So we're projected we'll probably be still like 8.5% for the year, maybe 9. But like June, July, I'm sweating it a little bit because it'll be rough. Like I think July was forecasted to be 19%. Luckily, we had a very strong performance, so it came in way under. But yeah, I think we just have it forecasted where we'll keep it sub 10% for the year, but we're trying to no longer hold back as much as we did.
Yeah, dude, and I would just lean in harder to it. I mean, I think Taylor Holiday has really good advice for most brands, but you're not most brands. You're a 9-figure beauty brand who's growing 50+%. I don't know to tell you that or not, but that's unicorn territory, right? And if I think Taylor Holiday is talking about the Bamboo Earths of the world, or like really awesome 7 to low 8-figure brands, but like you could be bought by Cody or fucking
LVMH. That's who we want.
Yeah,
Throwing it
yeah,
out there.
yeah. Okay, you can buy LVMH for like $1 billion pretty soon, and it's like, you know what they're not going to do? Buy a company that doesn't have a CFO.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they're going to be like, not too risky. Like, dude, like like they have such cold feet about everything. So anyway, we can get back to talking about like how cool I am, but that's just some additional unsolicited advice. You have everybody.
No, I agree. I think like 10% is really where we're trying to keep it. And we're trying, because like, so one thing that kills me about finance is like you budget in the beginning of the year, maybe you re-budget quarterly, but like all of your fixed costs, you're not necessarily changing, where like marketing spend will change daily. And so now I just have our finance team tracking it, where it's like, hey, are we above or below 10%? All right, we're below it. We're going to hire more people. Like we'll move these hires up, or vice versa. So I agree. I definitely agree with you. I think it's a fine line. I still think, so like obviously as you grow and scale, like MER is going to go down. It's going to decrease. Acquisition efficiency is going to decrease. You do want to keep as much operating leverage as you can, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, right? But I think you're at a point in your business where $1 million in fixed cost hiring could unlock $50 million in revenue, just because if everyone gets 2% better across the business with these hires, and then you can go do something new that brings in $10 million. And a good example with Ridge is that like we'd be having a pretty shitty year if we didn't have travel, right? Travel will do, 8 figures this year, right? Very first year of operating. Ring's 8 figures, second year of operating. And those are only possible because of bringing in new product development hires. So think about that, Cody.
I think you're right. It's why we got you on the show. It's why you're here. So one thing you guys did that you obviously brought in, and I know this came from your tweet, so I want to talk about it a little bit, the Marquez deal. I'm curious on that. I've gotten to talk to Connor about it, but like, where did that come from? That was obviously a big investment. And like, what's your bet? What do you know that people don't know? Why are you giving, equity in a board seat to a content creator when you guys are already doing well and growing as is?
Right. Well, I don't think I know things that people don't know, but what I'll say is I sent this tweet to Connor today. Donald Trump is going on podcasts, right? He did All In. He just did Theo Vaughn's podcast. I think he'll do any podcast that'll have him on, Full Send, whatever else. That is an embrace of new media that I think could decide the election, right? And like, there's still established media, I think it still has a place, and like we all do, PR functions, whatever else. But dude, undoubtedly, our careers, all the wealth I've ever, been privy to, every single dollar I've had has come from this massive shift starting in 2010, where there was $100 billion in ad dollars going to legacy media players like TV and newspapers. And that $100 billion has shifted almost entirely to social media platforms, right? And you can see a chart, and it's more than $100 billion. I don't have the exact fucking numbers, but like 400 billion, whatever. 2010, all of the money was going to legacy players. Facebook launches Facebook Ads Manager, and every year they just take more and more of this ecosystem. And what that is a shift towards digital. Like it's for the first time in 100 years since TV came out, right? Or since radio came out before it, there's a new platform taking all the attention, all of the dollars, and it's just better. It's easier to reach, it's funner, it's more engaging, and that's not going away, right? People want to talk about that like, oh, cinema's coming back, theaters are coming back. Dude, they're not coming back. They're gonna have the same level of relevancy as theater in our culture. And like theater has a place, Broadway has a place, but there's only 2 places you can be a professional theater actor. There's one in London and there's one in New York, right? That is where I think movies are going. That's where I think theaters are going. And so what am I fucking rambling about? What I'm talking about is cultural relevance is way more important on the internet and way more tied to digital content creation. And we aren't very good at that. We didn't really have that skill. I think we're really good at creating ads, but I don't think we can create a 30-minute video that people would choose to watch. And that's the most mind-blowing, beautiful thing about the internet, there's a creator, I don't remember her name, but I'll share it. She just like reviews theme parks. She also did one where it was like she just talked about the entire series of the Vampire Diaries, and they're like 4-hour YouTube videos, and they have like 8 million views on it, right? Like that is PBS, that is documentaries, like all that has moved online, and we don't know how to tell those stories. Like, the Wallet brand cannot make a good long form video. They'll keep you engaged, but Marquez Brownlee can, right? And I think we're in this part where what me and Connor have been really good at is like understanding arbitrage. Like there is an arbitrage right now in like digital creators and like their likeness and their ability to create this content and tell these stories. We could get, and we've talked to Pedro Pascal's of the world, or like, insert any famous A-list celebrity, and they want $2 million, $4 million, $8 million, and they want to work with us for 4 hours a week. Where Marquez is our age, we look up to him, we love what he does. He's on the internet, he's young, he knows how to make content, and like we're in Slack together. It's just like a whole different type of relationship, and I believe in the creator economy. I think people buy from people, and I think it's going to be more and more of an asset as with the rise of AI and teamification of the entire internet and everything getting worse. Us having just like this gold star, amazing creator who can help us tell our story, undervalued. Whatever I paid, undervalued.
See, I think you do know something we don't know. That was well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
So it's essentially just a big bet on the creator economy.
Totally. Yeah. Or the internet. I think the creator economy is the internet. Consumer generated content. That is the future of everything.
I want to tell you why Ridge moved our customer support to RichPanel. Some SaaS providers are jacking up prices for the same piece of software that's barely changed over the years. I think it was Jason Lemkin on a podcast recently said software has gone from being software as a service to software as a ripoff, and I don't think that's ever been more true. And I think RichPanel is a rare exception to that rule. So we took a demo with RichPanel, found out they were way ahead of the competition in terms of AI and self-service capabilities. Their support platform is exactly what we needed and what I felt would become more modern tooling for the type of experience we wanted to provide for our customers. So when we found out that they can easily migrate our data and get us up and running in 2 weeks, it was a no-brainer, which is why we migrated, and which is why brands like Thinx, Snow, Lashify, and 2,000 other brands have made the switch. If you are frustrated with random price hikes from your SaaS and want a trusted partner that can help you deliver awesome customer service, head to richpanel.com and book a demo today.
I'm reading a book right now called For the Culture. And it's the guy, he's like an old agency guy, and he's a professor now at the University of Michigan, I think. And the whole book's about like, how do you, as a brand or as an advertiser, really like embed yourself and influence culture. And he makes an interesting distinction, which I think you like kind of hit on just now, Sean. But he says, audiences buy features, which I think is basically where Ridge is at now. We have like arbitraged like attention via media buying and content and online distribution, and having a innovative product that has features people like. That's like ultimately what we've done. And I do think the next leg of growth is the second piece of this line from the book is that congregation. So this is like an audience that has a shared amount, like some shared values and are more like fanatical. It's like the whole thing has kind of a religious tinge to it. Congregations buy stories. That's something Sean just mentioned. We're not particularly, it's not a core competency of ours. For Marquez, it totally is. And I'd also say our entire partnership program is a way of doing that, where we can embed ourselves in people who tell stories and create congregations, and we just end up building more brand affinity. And I think like trying to do that at scale is what growth, it's an avenue of growth that might be absolutely necessary for Ridge, and Marquez is kind of like the flagship piece of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we want to unpack the future or like telegraph our moves, but Connor foresees our program getting deeper with more creators. So like typically it was like shotgun. I mean, we sponsored individually over 5,000 creators. So like we've worked with everybody and their mom basically, right? Across TikTok, Instagram, whatever else. Connor wants to see a world where we're doing less deals, but way deeper integrations. And I think sweepstakes is like the first real, like real world example of that actually coming true. There's 23 videos that will feature both trucks, and like across, small creators, big creators, but like getting cars in those videos has been such a pain in the ass, but like it makes the videos so much better. Those videos return such a higher return, and it just makes us feel like more of a real brand. It's not like, these guys are giving these cars away. It's like, no, they're giving these cars away that I'm going to drive and I'm going to race. I'm going to tell you if I like them or not and which one you should pick. And imagine doing that with, every cool thing we have coming out. I think that is the future. So Connor's right about that.
Yeah, totally. I'd also say like the partnership approach, sponsoring thousands of people, billions of views, was like a form of arbitrage. And that's like basically gone away. Like we used to pay $5-7 CPMs. We'd be one of the few advertisers even on YouTube. Now it's saturated and it's more expensive. It's just less effective. So how are we partnering with creators to collaboratively tell a story about why our brand's a good fit for their audience? And then how do we scale that further through our own distribution, whether that's paid or getting rights, promoting on the site or through email, SMS, et cetera?
So you're obviously long creator, and that's like a big bet for you guys. Are you short like digital ads? Like, is this something where it's like, you think it's a sinking ship and you're like, we've got to go and make this big investment and pivot or else we're going to die? Or is this just an additional growth opportunity?
Well, I'm not short digital ads. I'll tell you what I'm short. I'm short legacy media. So TV ads, that entire industry. I mean, everyone's been shorted for 10 years. I don't think anyone's been shorted enough. I think it will go to zero. I think no one wants to view content like that. I think the people who do are dying over time. Scott Galloway talks about that all the time, right? Like they're not making new cable viewers. I don't even know if you can sign up for a cable package, truthfully. And that's like, on top of that, I'm short premium digital placements. I'm short, like, it used to be you would go to a Vox and you would give them $100,000 and they would like make special display ads or something for you. Like I'm short all of that. Right. And I'm even probably 50% short programmatic, like just like programmatic open web digital ads. I don't see the open web being a part of the future. And dude, my mind's changed on that a lot because I bought everydaycarrier.com. I bought an open web platform for $1 million. And like, now I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if the open web's going to be a thing for very much longer. So digital ads will lead everything. What I'm hesitant about is that like, you don't control the CPMs in digital ads, right? Facebook is not God. Facebook's a public company who, unless they add more users or more ad space, they're going to charge more for what they have. And it's a duopoly. So what the fuck else are you going to do? When Facebook sucked in the first half of this year, you know what me and Connor did? Sucked it up and spent more money on Facebook. Because what else are we going to do? like, where am I going to go? People are like, oh, have you tried Snapchat? Have you tried Twitter? Have you tried Reddit? I'm like, yes, we are a top sponsor and ad spender on all of those platforms. We're featured in Snapchat earnings. It's great ad space. It is 1/10 of the scale of the Meta properties, right? Like so to answer your question, I believe in content creators. I would say I'm still incredibly long content creators. I'm going to spend more money with content creators because at the end of the day, the amount of people who create social media content has gone down, but time on content has gone up. It used to be we'd all post on Instagram. We'd all post on Facebook. Now only creators post and you only post when you have a baby, right? But people spend 8 hours a day on fucking Instagram app. So the amount of time spent on apps is up. The amount of time, and attention that those apps are getting is going to continue to go up. I think creators are a big part of that. So I'm long creators. I'm long digital ads, but
and long creators in digital ads. That's such a key piece of the whole Marquez deal. It's like it is a we would love for it to be a 5, 10, 15% improvement across all of our digital ads. That would be the biggest one the business could possibly have.
Dude, if we got a 5% improvement on all of our digital ads, we're like, I always say we're going to spend $100 million this year. I'm like, okay, yeah. At a 2x MER, we're talking $10 million in value off the rip. I'm excited for that.
Is that something where you're already leveraging and already using like these partners and Marquez as well in ads, and any findings there yet so far?
We've got a ton of ways. It's working in ads. We're figuring it out. I wouldn't say it's like you could look at our ads library. It's not like he's in every single one. But there's a lot of ways that we can get value from the partnership, right? So media value alone, like his distribution is like, we feel incredibly good about his ability to influence ads. We'll have Best Buy MKBHD fixtures going live towards the end of the year into Q4. So there's just so many ways that we can like distribute him as a creator and kind of the credibility that he has and the natural story of the Ridge and Marquez partnership. And then it can get distributed in, I just named 3 ways, between like traditional retail, his own media as well as our digital ads.
And so one thing I've heard you guys talk about is like, he's also just going to teach you, right? You guys are pretty good at paid ad creation, but organic content. Is this something where there's going to be a Ridge YouTube channel and you guys will be creating content for that? That's not and trying to treat that as a new TV, or are you more bullish just on creators and having them create for you?
There's no way we will ever make a long form video that people want to watch. And companies with more money and more creative talent have tried. Like Yeti will put out beautiful documentaries that 14,000 people watch, right? Like that's not a good use of our time or energy. I said the ultimate goal, I told Jono, I told Marquez this. I'm like, bro, if we could make a short form video that people like, that is such a win. And I think we're there. I think our short form video is the best it's ever been. We got Connor and JD running that. Amazing short form video content that like looks and feels like a real brand. So I told them like in my wildest dreams, we're getting 60 seconds of content people want to watch. I don't think we're going to do 30 minutes.
That's fair. Yeah. I feel like a few years ago, everyone was talking about like linear commerce and, media, all brands becoming a media company. And I feel like there's so many brands that tried it and just shut it down, whether it's like Casper or Way or whoever it is that had like their magazines and their sites or stuff like that, or like Into the Gloss. I feel like almost everybody shut it down.
Well, dude, because everyone chirps and says like, "Oh, this is the next big thing," and then like they see one person do it, that makes other people do it, but nobody knows how those things are going, right? And we see a small part of this in like the e-com landscape. We'll watch people. Zach Stuck watches somebody copy his worst ads, and he's like, "You fucking idiot! You're copying the things that lose me money, right?" But that's what happens with legacy businesses at scale. Like you'll see people getting the same type of partnerships, the same type of celebrity deals, and like they don't know if it's going well or not. And I'll tell you, as someone who thought media and commerce were going to collide and become this one big thing, we bought everydaycarry.com, and I'm like, nah, man, it's way harder than you think it is. Like the people reading the top 10 wallets, article organically on everydaycarry.com, those people are incredibly sophisticated, and they do not just want to be told to buy Ridge wallets. Like these are people who it's their hobby and their passion, right? Like they want to like argue about like intricate nature of like Ridge Wallet 2017 versus Ridge Wallet 2018. And I'm like, okay, never mind. I tried my best.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, it's great.
Cody, what are you guys doing for creators? We talked a bit about like our approach with Marquez or the partnership program. What are you guys thinking? I know you've been playing with seeding. Where are you at?
Yeah, it's a good question. We do a lot of seeding. It's one of those things that's hard to know if it's how much it's working, how much it's actually driving people. Is you just get like an earned media number. But I think overall I'm pretty bullish on it. I've seen some data of like Connor from Tribe has showed it, like earned media value correlating with like using MMM to like public beauty company revenues. And like, it's pretty interesting, especially as you grow, right? Like Sean was saying before, like when you're just launching and you're a 7-figure brand, like you've just got to get conversions. But as you grow, it's probably not just spend more on Meta. You probably have to do other things that you're going to reach new people. So I think we've done very little like paid, like earned media things. And so we're planning that. We'll probably start it just January in Q1, but we're working with Ashton and stuff like that on it. One of the issues we're having, I don't know, I don't have data on this, but we do a great job reaching an older demo. So Bobby's, 67 something years old. People are going to relate to people that look and sound and feel like them. So we do an amazing job reaching, a more mature, older audience. I think we have a pretty big opportunity, more of like a millennial audience. And so I think that's one thing we're going to do. I don't think we're going to, go and partner with somebody and pay them $1 million. I think we'll probably dip our toes in a little bit, sooner and pay, $50,000, pay, 100K a month. But I do think for us, partnering with a creator probably will be pay them for some earned media stuff, and then having some rights in there where it's like, if that post does well from an earned perspective on Instagram, then we can just boost that and run that as a partnership ad. I think that will be a way that helps us to get some credibility, get the messaging, get some of those, those data points to break into like that new market that we think is going to be important for growth. What do you guys think of that? Give me some feedback.
Well, I don't think you take big enough swings. That's my feedback to you. 50K in the beauty space. What, are you going to get someone with 5,000 followers? like those. Yeah, it's really hard to win with beauty creators. I would take your $100,000 and I would go find someone who's very recognizable, but outside of the beauty space. I'd get Amy Poehler, right? Or I'd get Tina Fey or somebody like that and be like, hey, how'd you like to be the face of beauty? I mean, those are just two examples, but like somebody millennial audiences, people like, or anybody who's on The Office, I would get them and be like, you're now a beauty creator. How would you like that? Because taking a $50K check over to, who's that lady who with the Boston accent? Michaela, taking it to her, she'd be like, yo, bro, I get 50K from waking up every day. Like it's
she's
not
actually less than you would think. I know someone that used to whitelist through them. It was like 10K a month.
Oh, okay, there you go, man.
Think. But no, I agree with you. We don't take big enough swings. We're pretty cheap. We've been able to grow without doing any of this. Like any times we've gotten deep into some of these conversations, like somebody wanted $1 million, we're like, I just can't I can't justify that as of right now.
Bro, yeah, Cody, you got to get me on the board, man. I'll be in there. I'll shake some things.
We would.
I'll waste a lot of money. Don't worry, man.
No, I agree with you. We do take bigger swings, though.
You just call it brand budget. Have you considered that?
Love that. No, this is kind of funny. So Bobby called me like 2 weeks ago, and she's like, "What if we did?" She was like, "I think she was talking to J-Lo's manager or something." And she was like, "What if we did like a miracle bomb with J-Lo, and we gave her like a royalty? Like, what percentage could we give her?" And I'm like, I don't know if you know. Like, I don't think J-Lo is like very popular right now. But I was like,
dude,
I love the idea. Like, let's do that. Let's give somebody royalties, but let's find somebody that's like in that younger audience. Like, let's find. I just got to figure out who that person would be. I agree. It's like not a beauty person. It's a celeb, a creator. But like, I do think that's the way to get us to kind of reach that younger audience.
Bro, Chappelle Roan, dude, you get in early. Even though she's the biggest music star. I'll come up with a list for you, man.
I appreciate that. I got to look up who that person is.
I
might be getting old. I might be getting old.
Dude, I've had Chappell Roan on nonstop this week. It's been great work music. You'll have to check it out.
I thought you were on the Kendrick playlist.
Dude, that's the spectrum. Mode. That's the spectrum that I'm working on, dude. Not like us, also great lock-in music. Chappell Roan also apparently good for doing media buying.
Yeah, dude, very demure, very mindful, Connor.
All right, I think that's the show. I think we got to end it on that.
Cody, we got some good other questions.
Oh, you got it? How much we have time?
We got so much time.
Right,
is it hard being the bad boy of e-com? You wrote that down. Let me think. Nah. We can edit. Hey, audience, sorry if this was boring, but if you listen to the marketing operators, you probably have a pretty high tolerance for what's boring. So thanks.
So we can cut that part out. Oh, one more question. It says, Sean, is it hard being so good looking? I wonder who put that question in there.
Connor, man.
That was fun. That was a wrap. I don't think that was boring at all. But thanks for coming on, Sean. I really appreciate it. Anything you want to plug? You want to plug a Ridge Wallet sales, sweepstakes? You want to plug your podcast?
Yeah. Let's make sure to plug my Twitter, my podcast, like where everybody else already comes from. So no, this is fun, guys. Like what you guys are building. I'll be a regular guest. We'll get every week we'll kick one of you guys off and I'll jump right in.
Perfect.
All right, if you made it this far, I don't know what you are doing with your life, but thank you for listening to the Marketing Operators Podcast, episode 23. Next week, we'll have Jason replace Cody, and it will be me and Jason. We'll get Mike in here, and it will just be the Operators Podcast over here as well, us twice a week. But thank you again to Motion, the best app on earth, Rich Panel, my customer service software, Prescient AI, and House. I think I've paid for all of those things, but thank you for sponsoring this. Thank you for subscribing, listening, tweeting at us, leave a nice comment, stop bullying these guys, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Goodbye.